Welcome back to Doodling with Purpose. On Lesson 57, we're going to look again at how Egyptians choose to write things and the rationale behind how they choose to write them. So, first off, a little bit of a recap. We talked a lot in the last few lessons about the elastic nature of hieroglyphs, how they can be stretched, how they can be shrunk. And this is done for basically two reasons. One, to make the hieroglyphs look nice and look beautiful, and second, because they often ran out of room, because unlike modern computers and writing paper, Egyptians were writing on the walls a lot of the time. I mean, obviously they had papyrus as well, but they had to deal with things like corners and rooms ending and corridors coming to a sudden stop. So the ability to make the hieroglyphic language flexible was very necessary in order to accommodate the actual place where they were doing the writing. So we've talked about graphical transposition, meaning when glyphs are moved around in order to make the language more beautiful. So here is the city Daju. And you know it's a city because it's got a determinative for place at the end, the circle with an X through it. Now, it's spelled out with the column, the hand, and the bird, J, D, W, Daju. So that's the name of one of the cities in ancient Egypt. Now, it would make sense that it would be written like this. But because of graphical transposition, we're actually going to move around the glyphs, and you'll see this is the way it's written, simply to make the name of the town prettier to look at. You can also eliminate one of the sounds because it's a sound complement. So noticing that the column making the sound j, like j and d, the hand d, and the bird w, you can eliminate the second D. As we've noted in some of the past lessons, this is called a sound complement, when you have a one consonant sound that repeats a double consonant sound preceding it. And then as far as the graphical transposition, you'll see we're swapping the bird, the W sound, and the determinative for town in order just to make this word look nicer when written on a wall. So you'll see Daju, the town, written like this, with the determinative in the middle under the hand glyph between the tall glyphs of the column and the bird. Simply a way to make the word look prettier and stand out. It's still pronounced Judu or Duju, but it's spelled with the determinative in the center for graphical transposition rationale. All right. A different type of transposition of letters is called honorific transposition. So same concept, but for a different reason, not just for beauty, but for honor. So here is the word me, which means like. One glyph, but it actually has a meaning as a single word. M-I, me, the word like. And here is the glyph for Ra. It could also be the word for day, Haru, but in this case, it's going to be the sun disk, which is Ra, the god of the sun. So if we were going to say like Ra, meaning I want to be like Ra, it would make sense to say me Ra, with the me first, followed by Ra. Well, because Ra is a god, we honor him and put the letter Ra first, even though it's not read that way. This is called honorific transposition. So by moving the Ra glyph ahead of me, it's still pronounced me Ra, but it actually is spelled Ra me. Another example. So this is the glyph Netter. Netter is the glyph for God. So again, a sort of holy or religious aspect letter. And then here is the glyph the bat, which I wrote a little sloppy here. And this means person. I did a terrible job on the left side of that glyph, didn't I? I got to work on my glyphership. All right, so if you were going to write person of the god, it would be netter. Person, netter, god. And a person of the god is a priest. So this is the word for priest. But much like Ra, you were going to honor the word for God, netter, and move that in front of the glyph for person. Not the way you would read it, but just the way you write it. It's an honorific transposition. So, netter is actually written netter, but because we recognize netter is a word, a religious word, meaning God, you know it's going to be read second. It's just going to be written first. So you'll still say the bat, followed by netter, the word for God. You're just going to read it in that order. So person of the god, or priest, being written with the religious letter or glyph first, followed by the secular word, meaning person. So of course, the big question you're probably going to ask is, how in the world do I know when to do this? How do I know when to use a letter first, even though it's pronounced after? Well,
you will know when you are calm, at peace.
And Master Yoda's not that far off, because the more you learn the language, the more you'll get used to these rules and you'll start to see them naturally. You'll recognize which glyphs are religious words and religious letters. It's all just about taking time and learning more and more about the structure of the Egyptian hieroglyphic language. And that's why you're watching this channel, right? Doodling with Purpose. Each week, another lesson building on the last. Hope you've enjoyed this week. Join me next time and we'll do further learning as we continue to doodle with purpose. Give this video a like. A subscription to the channel is great because it tells YouTube to share this with more people. And that's what it's all about, sharing fun knowledge. See you next week for more Doodling with Purpose.